Hey everybody, it's Novell J. and many of you may know me as the host of Buzzworthy Radio at buzzworthy.urradio.com. But right now I'm about to do my very first vidcap of ABC's Revenge latest episode, Penance. Check it out. Okay, so this episode takes off after Mason is suddenly putting everything together in reference to Amanda Clark, Emily Thorne, and the Graysons. He's slowly inching his way towards figuring out the truth as to exactly who really is Emily Thorne. But we'll get to that in a minute. But of course, we're seeing that Crazy Kara, wants to leave town and is saying goodbye to Victoria. And it was probably as touching as that of a root canal, I'm just saying. But she is about to say her goodbyes. We're hearing the initiative being spoken in so many terms within the last 30 minutes. So if you were having your drinking game and every time the word initiative was said, you probably would have been drunk within 20 minutes of the program. Just saying. But I will admit, this episode finally found its footing as to what made me love Revenge in the first place during season 1. I felt that the episodes prior to this, it didn't have much of its momentum, so to speak, that caused us to be so into Revenge when we first started the show. And it seems like this episode that happened this past Sunday was the episode that is finally finding its footing. And let's just hope it stays there. Doesn't backtrack, but it keeps going in the right direction. Amanda goes to Emily's house and says that they need to deal with Mason once and for all, as he's too busy sniffing his nose in where it doesn't belong. He is getting so close to figuring out the truth. Amanda thinks they need to take care of him completely. Remember Frank Stevens and what happened to him when he got too close to the truth? Lead pipe, bashes in, skull, dead, buried. Yeah, this is probably going to go that same scenario in Amanda's mind. But Mason has decided to invite Amanda for lunch. Emily tells her to cancel it. However, she backtracks. She decides to go ahead and have a meeting with him anyway. This causes Mason to sniff his nose out even more. So later on in the program, we see Amanda going back to Mason's house with him, and there's this wall. Imagine this wall, right? There's this wall that you will find in most police offices where they're trying to construct a murder mystery when they're having suspects and victims and all that stuff. So you have the wall, you have the pictures of basically the Graysons, Emily Thorne, David Clark, Amanda Clark, and how is all of this intertwined? He's so close to figuring out. And he's so close that all you see is Amanda taking a wrench. It looks like a wrench. It was probably a wrench, but it probably was another lead pipe. You know, I think she has this thing with metal pipes, bashing people in with metal pipes. I mean, it's just what it is. And she bashes almost his forehead. If Emily Thorne did not come in the door and save the day, and basically Mason is still alive and kicking thanks to her. Now, it was interesting, though, beforehand, when they did have a meeting, Emily and Mason, that it was brought up that it was possible that Emily and Amanda were lovers when they were in juvenile hall. I thought that was kind of hinted during the first season, so it was not completely shocking that that point was brought up, but you never know. But once Emily comes in and saves the day for Mason, Amanda leaves and saying that she made a great mistake, but then it comes to the realization for Mason that the person that was there this entire time, wreaking all of this havoc, was actually Amanda Clark. Emily Thorne was really Amanda. And there you have it. Mason has figured out the truth. The other thing, too, that I did have a gripe about, I did put this out on Twitter on Sunday night, was Aiden goes to Nolan to basically have him help Emily. And where was the investment check? Excuse me. Where was the investment check that David Clark gave him right before he started up No Corp? And he basically was using this. He gave it to Aiden, and now the Graysons have leverage to possibly get into the No Corp company. Basically in an effort for Nolan to save Emily's ass. Now, I love Nolan to death. I really, really do. Nolan Ross is amazing. Gabriel Mann brings so much to the role. As you well know, I am a huge Gabriel Mann, Nolan Ross fan, but I so hate the fact that he just sold out his company. He sold out his company and everything that he built up, thanks to Amanda's father, just to save Emily Thorne's behind. He's putting everything on the line for her. Now, while I know a lot of Revenge fans like that, I personally don't. Simply because he's catering to her way too much. I think that, I know we made a promise to David but I honestly think that he should not have put his company on the line for her. And I would love to see Nolan outside of that retrospect. Give him something to do that is outside of the world of Emily. Give him something out of her orbit. You know, I know they're trying to start up this romance with Pana, which I still do not trust. I don't trust that girl as far as I can throw her. There's something conveniently off about her, even though in the end she's like saying that she would love Nolan even if he wasn't the Nolan Ross with the riches, the Nolan Ross without the power, the Nolan Ross without the company. She would still love him anyway because he is who he is, no matter what is behind him. I thought that was touching and cute, but I still find something off about that. I really do. I think I'm sniffing something wrong with her. I am just not convinced. I'm not convinced. So we'll see, hopefully in the coming weeks, but with his possible ex coming into the picture, who's to say? Who is to say? But I do not think that they should put Nolan into Emily's orbit in such a way where he has to defend Emily fully with the way that he had just done with Aiden. Now, of course, again, this gives the Graysons leverage. They did have a business meeting in the Grayson Manor, and while that was going on, Victoria calls Conrad to come upstairs into the bedroom. Before we get into that, Emily devises a plan for Mason, basically going along with it. Otherwise, pretty much in Emily's fashion, reap the consequences if you don't go along with it. So he has a meeting with Kara right before she leaves town. Basically, the premise of this plan was to make sure that Kara leaves town permanently and does not come back. But in the hindsight of this conversation, he goes against everything that Emily says and actually tells Kara the truth about David Clark and what the Graysons did to him and how he was murdered, and the truth about Gordon Murphy. You don't set off a crazy person by telling her truths right now. Because what happens next? When Conrad goes up to Victoria's room, there's Clara with a gun in the bedroom, getting ready to bust their brains out. Little did they know, Emily was watching the specifics going on in the Grayson house during the surveillance camera, but there were a lot of security cameras shut off. Luckily enough, she was able to figure out that they were upstairs and tells Aiden to get his butt upstairs and do something. He walks through the door, chloroforms Kara, gets her out of the room before she can do any damage to Victoria and Conrad. They get into the car, and Emily and Kara say their goodbyes before she heads off and goes into the sunset, not knowing whether or not she's going to be coming back or not. So they do go away. Nolan was advised to stick to the plan, so to speak. And what that plan was to get Mason arrested. Sure enough, he winds up in prison. So Mason and Emily have a conversation of sorts. They sort of devise the plan such in a way where he pleads guilty to whatever it was going on. I was so confused by the whole thing. I think that was probably my best bet, to be confused in this state and time in this episode, which that is a good thing. That's a good thing that I was confused during the ends of that. It sounds as if that basically Emily is his way out of prison, or Emily is also his way of, now that he knows her secret, take it to the grave, but also use it to write the tale of the century in his next novel. Hit him right where it hurts. Be a bestseller so he can be popular again within the Hamptons as well as worldwide. Yeah, you best use that to your advantage, which was smart. So, my whole thing too, also, in the midst of that, it was kind of funny. Somebody had mentioned this on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Michael Buckley. It might have been Rolando. I'm not sure exactly. But somebody said that why is it that Emily can talk about Nolan to Aiden, but when Nolan wants to talk about Aiden to Emily, she stops the conversation? What's that about? I kind of don't get it, but maybe we're not supposed to. Oh, and by the way, Revenge Writers, not into the whole Jack Porter bar scene storyline right now. I think that's the filler in the episodes that I'm kind of snoozing at. So if you could do something about that, I'd really, really appreciate it. Whether vamping it up or basically cutting it out altogether, thumbs up on that, just so you know. And let's talk about the gift of revenge that was going on during the entire episode. I thought that was pretty cool. I really did. It was very interesting to see all the scenarios of the revenge within the revenge episode, and how Target and Neiman Marcus chucked up a lot of money to put this on the air during ABC's airing of Revenge on Sunday night. It was very, very well done. It was actually well crafted. The only thing I did not like was the band. I'm sorry, the music did not thrill me. Mute was my friend during that performance. However, I was sold back into the commercial when you see Nolan Roth take the stage at the rave party. So you solely back into the commercial when that happened. So I was very proud that that surprise came into effect. So what a wonderful use of revenge within revenge during that night. And if you were ever to do anything like that again, I would totally support it. But next time, just put me on the invitation list, just so you know. But that was my revenge vidcap at this point in time, with a little bit of commentary mixed in. I didn't really have much to say about the bar storyline simply because I'm not interested in it. I'm so bored with that storyline. It was not even worth any mention whatsoever. And every time I mention Ashley, the words heifer comes out of my mouth. I'm sorry. Doing Conrad by day, Daniel by night, most likely. It's not really, you know. But at least Ashley's more interesting now. She is. She's not pretty much the whatever she was in the first season. What was she exactly? I don't even know what to call her during the first season. But now at least she's more viable, I guess you can say, in this season. But I'm kind of thinking that she needed to put her claws up, because I'm not going to be too surprised if Emily and Daniel get back together. However, the ending of Sunday night's episode with Emily and Aiden was by far my favorite part of the show. It was about time that happened, so thumbs up on that. Revenge will not be seen this coming Sunday due to the American Music Awards, but it will return the following Sunday at 8 Central, so make sure you guys tune in for that. It's a special Thanksgiving episode, which I believe is also a flashback episode in it as well. So it's a flashback episode mixed in with current stuff going on in the Hamptons, if I'm not mistaken, if I read that correctly. But if I'm wrong, please correct me on that. But yes, make sure you tune into Revenge a week from Sunday night with a brand new episode. So that is my vidcap for now. If you enjoyed it, I'll be back again doing another vidcap for you guys on Revenge when the next newest episode comes on the air. You can follow me on Twitter at BuzzworthyRadio, as well as liking my Facebook page within the same name. I'm Neville J. Lee, making sure you keep getting the latest buzz with Buzzworthy Radio, and make sure you watch Revenge Sunday nights at 8 Central on ABC. See you guys later on.